Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where I've pretty much confirmed that the Bartolomeo platform is basically what I thought it was. I've had a bit of a difficult time finding solid images of it. I'm sure they exist, I just haven't located them, right? But I did locate this one on nasa.gov. Now, this is while it was still being assembled, and we can see about the size and shape and how that ends up working. So the way I think we are going to end up deploying this is probably not how it's supposed to be deployed, which is via the robotic arm, of course. But the way that we are going to end up deploying it is almost certainly with like a grab arm somewhere around here or so, and then some RCS, and yeah, just something along those lines. Now, I'm definitely reading this as being its own little mini robotic arm here. You can see that this is definitely hinged in here with a rotation servo and a hinge here. And then it's got this guy here, which may or may not be expandable. Probably not. And that would be then like a grab arm or something like that over here. We could also read this as being also one. We probably should read it like that. These appear to be grapple points for robotic arms to grab onto. That's all well and good. But we can pretty much make something very, very similar to that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to open up our service bay here. It's going to have to fit in the service bay. And I want to have this be, like, docked on for the moment. So we're going to put a Clampetron docking port junior right here. And then we're going to need to use probably a structural panel or a structural pad. I'm thinking maybe an S12 structural panel. That seems okay. So we can definitely base it off of that. Now, we're going to need to attach this to the laboratory. So I'm going to do that, like I said, via a grab arm here. So we're going to have in our coupling an advanced grabbing unit junior. This is going to be clipping in, isn't it? And that could potentially cause us issues later on down the line. Yes. We're going to want to elevate this up a little bit. So I'm going to put in like maybe an octagonal strut here. Yeah, something like that. So that should work. Now, I think I'm going to have the underside here be designated as the control section, and the upper side be the workspace, is the way that I want this to work. So we're going to need to put in a small Probodobodyne, probably. So like an extra small remote guidance unit. This does have a reaction wheel, correct? Let's see here. Yes, it does have a reaction wheel. Okay, so we can put that in like that and then attach this guy on top of that. Then I would like to put in some small RCS tanks on here. That's going to end up being... Hang on. It's under command and control, right? This is where the thrusters are. RCS fuel tanks, so like monoprop tanks, right? I want to put on some, like, these are way too big. Minified monoprop tanks? Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so something about, like, that or so. That should do the trick. And then up top will be the workspace. As I said, we're going to have, like, a small robotic arm coming out from this side. And, I mean, taking a look at the rest of this, I can see that, like, on the attachment side, it, like, ramps up over here. We may or may not include that. We probably don't have parts for it, to be honest. So, well, we could do, like, a... Maybe. Hang on. I have an idea. So, like, one of these I-beams is too big. We have an I-beam Pocket Edition, which is way too little, or rather, way too big. Yeah, that's going to be a thing. As far as the robotic arm goes, we're going to have to see what that size looks like, right? So we need the absolute smallest rotation servo we can get, and we're only going to have one of these. Is that the smallest rotation servo? Yeah, I think it is. It's kind of huge. We're then going to have our, not G11 hinge, we need our G00 hinge. That goes on top like this. I'm going to set this angle to being like, I don't know, 45-ish degrees. And then we will set this guy to being -90, like this. So it just is going to head across here. Then what I'd like to put on here would be like modular girder segments in insulated mode, but in terms of size, it's going to be cubic octagonal struts, which unfortunately don't have an insulated version. So we're just going to have to do something kind of like that. And then we would put in our rotation servo. So that would be something like this guy. And we would want that guy to be rotated to be... Hang on. One of these rotations, I feel like. But it's not any of these, actually. What direction does this need to attach on at? Well, it needs to attach not like this, that's for sure. Because currently it's going to rotate the wrong way. We need it to attach on more like that. That's the correct direction. Okay, now we're going to have a G00 hinge that's going to go on like this. It doesn't really matter which way that goes, but I kind of want it to be rotated this way. And then we'll put that at a 90-degree angle, and then we could have some sort of a manipulator out here. A grab arm is almost certainly too large, but we could have some sort of like pretend manipulator. So that would end up being, I don't know, maybe like a modular girder small adapter. No, definitely not. What would end up looking kind of like that? I mean, there's this micro node here that's way too big. We could just have it be like a box. It would be definitely pretend and non-functional, right? If we were to attempt to put in our larger advanced grabbing unit junior, you can see that is way too big. We definitely don't want that, and that's the smallest that we have available in KSP1. So that is not an option. I think in that case, maybe we go with, like, if there's a really small rotor, turbo shaft engine is way too big. We could have it be like this controller, but I don't think that's really what we want to do. Yeah, these rotors are too big as well. So basically all of these parts are too big. We could just have it be a rotation servo. That is actually an option here. So what we would end up wanting to do for that is I would want to rotate this back over to here and then rotate this guy in a direction kind of like that. And we'd want to attach it in what direction? Well, actually, what I do is I just duplicate this, attach it in here. That's trying to rotate as well in a really awkward way. Sure. These are not the directions I want it to rotate. Thank you very much. I want to rotate on a different axis. I don't think that's the axis in question. It's just alternating between the two positions. It's not giving us the full rotation, which is really awkward, for sure. I want it to be rotated about like this. Yeah, like that. Okay, there we go. Cool. That works. Now we can bring this over to 90 degrees, and it'll just be something along the lines of that. Now, I do want to strut this in so that it doesn't flail about, and we'll just do that. That strut will need to be removed when we set this up. Okay, so next up, we're going to want to have maybe some sort of a small solar panel on here, just in case. So an extremely small solar panel out on this side, like that. And maybe changing the position of that ever so slightly to be about there. I'm going to have a couple of monoprop thrusters on here. So command and control, we're going to grab, say, these guys. And I want this to be in mirror symmetry, ideally. But I don't know that we can get in there with it still in mirror symmetry. Apparently we can. But it would need to actually be in this symmetry. And now it's going to do 4. 4 is, of course, not necessarily ideal. I suppose we could put one on each corner. I guess. That kind of works. And then as far as experiments and stuff that we would put on here, that would be something along the lines of, we would just put in, you know, like a couple of experiments here and there. A seismic accelerometer, a magnetometer. We could put in, say, a negative gravioli detector. That can go out over, say, here. And then we could put in, on this work side, a mystery goo containment unit. That might be a little too big. I think that'll fit there. Kinda. This will clip through, but that's expected. So no actual problem there. We'll slot in a press map barometer there as well. How much monoprop is this? 7.5 per tank. That's not a lot of monoprop, but it should be relatively okay. We could even, in theory, put in another monoprop unit, like right here. I'd want to turn off symmetry for that, and we would just put that in there, and then one there, about like that. So that would be our Bartolomeo platform. It's not exact, but it'll do. And as far as our deployment goes, it should be a nice, clean deployment. So I don't think there's a problem there. Then I would want to make sure that it itself is strutted to the rocket, although I don't expect this to move around too much. So I'm just going to do a singular strut like that. Okay, so when we deploy this, we're going to have to unstrut here and unstrut here. But we may want to do this unstrut after it's connected to the station. That'll probably be the way to go. Okay, we can get this thing launched, and this will be Falcon 9 / Actually, we can go this / Bartolomeo. Okay, we'll save that, and we'll put this out on the pad. Should be absolutely fine. We'll see if we can manage to recover the first stage this time. That would be nice. Hopefully, I don't completely mess it up, unlike last time. That was very awkward, no doubt about that. So as soon as we're loaded in here, we will get this all set up. So 300 kilometers, skipping circularization is fine. I don't mind that. I think this is all relatively okay. We will, of course... Oh, we have a debris up here. Okay, we'll have to clear that out eventually, but we will set the ISS as our target, launch into plane of target, and engage autopilot. That'll be in about an hour. The question is this going to be a land or a sea landing? Basically, which way are we going to go? Looks like it's going to be a land landing. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a land landing, launching on this side of the orbit. So that's okay. We can work with that. So we're going to be launching in 10 seconds here. This did jump. Now, to be clear, obviously, when we come out of the warp, this shouldn't jump the way that it does. If this causes issues, I will revert it, because that's just a physics bug. That's not the way it would work in reality. You can't time warp in reality, so that would be a physics bug, and I would revert that, but it didn't cause problems here, so that seems okay. So up we go here, and of course we're going to have to be doing our staging, which is a little bit more involved than the shuttle staging due to the recovery. And I'm ready to do the staging, but I'm a little early here. It's 75 seconds of burn time left. We've got another minute. So that seems absolutely okay. We're going to push our way up as into orbit as possible. But this is almost certainly going to be another landing in that same position. We're going to the same orbit, right? So it's going to be the same trajectory, pretty much. It'll be a little different, I'm sure, but very, very, very similar. If we were launching on the other side of the orbit, that is when we would be launching into water and have a water recovery. But that seems like that's going to be a little less common, which is fine, in theory. In theory. But the land landings are a little less forgiving. No doubt about that. So we are currently about 18 kilometers for our apoapsis. We've got about 45 seconds of burn left here, and we need to let that continue to burn on down. We'll be doing our staging as usual at about 12 seconds is the idea. Just holding that little bit of extra fuel for the recovery. But in theory, our apoapsis should be up to, I don't know, maybe around 100 kilometers by then. It's currently at about 50. And we've only got a few more seconds of burn time here, but we are getting a lot of speed, and that's absolutely great. 60. 70. Okay. So we're going to be cutting our throttle right about now. Okay. There we go. And we're off. We are retaining some fuel here. Yeah, about 107. That looks about right. Not too bad, all things considered. So let's just continue to push ourselves up into orbit. This is, of course, not optimally efficient. It would be optimally efficient if we were expending this stage, but we're not expending the stage. We are recovering it, or trying to. We'll see how that goes. But we just need to, of course, push ourselves on up. I'm going to physics warp from here, because this will be a fairly lengthy burn at this point. We're now in space. That's looking solid. And this apoapsis height is just going to head on up. Currently about 145. Almost halfway. 160. 170. Yep, we're definitely hitting that exponential curve at this point. So that looks good. Going to come out of the physics warp now. Fine-tuning the apoapsis. And we've got lots of time at this point. So, with that done, let's hop on over to our first stage, which is, I think, heading down right now. Okay. Wait, did that just not skip circularization? It's supposed to skip circularization, but I think with it unloaded, it'll be fine. So we need to take this to surface velocity minus. We need to enable our air brake steering. Of course, in the vacuum that we're in right now, our air brake steering is not going to be very effective. But let's just make our way on around. We can physics warp as we turn, and yep, we're definitely coming in on this same trajectory. We'll see how this goes. We'll do our re-entry burn at about 40 kilometers, as we have been. That definitely seems to feel good. Okay, I'm going to take us out of physics warp now that we're in the atmosphere. And I want to be in surface velocity. Okay. So that looks relatively fine. We are, of course, starting to lose some of our energy levels. Our gravitational potential energy is declining due to drag. But drag is not a huge deal at this location. So we're going to burn off about 5 seconds of fuel right about... Actually, hang on. Right about now. 9, 8, 7. Okay, engine shutdown. Let's toggle that gear action group. So that removes some speed. Technically, we're probably not better off to do that. But I want to do it anyway. So that'll be fine. Watching our radar altitude here, we're going to start our landing burn at about 1.5 kilometers. And I'm going to try not to mess it up this time. Fingers crossed. We'll see. We might not land on flat terrain. It might tip over after we land. We'll see what happens with that. Or I might just completely fail the landing. That's always a possibility too. So we're slowing down. That's looking solid. 8 kilometers up. 7. 6. 5. 4. 3 kilometers up. 2 kilometers. Beginning landing burn now. Okay. Just keeping an eye on that speed, letting us reorient a bit. Okay. It's looking decent. Almost overshot it. Oh. We broke our landing legs. So the problem there... Oh, we actually get to recover some of this. That's nice. So that's actually the expensive part that we get to recover. That's not an amazing landing. We broke the landing legs by coming in slightly too fast there, but overall, we're improving at that. I think that's very clear. So we can recover this guy. That's not going to be worth anything to recover this, although we can recover the other. The engines are the important thing here to recover, and that's recoverable. So that looks good. But we did come in ever so slightly too fast there. It was very close, but it's dicey. You have to hit that very, very tightly. No doubt about it. I feel like I'm improving, but it will require additional practice. That was very close. And as it is, we actually did manage to recover the important parts. So let's see how much we get from this. I'm not expecting this one to actually be a useful recovery. So yeah, 264 funds from that one. That was just the decoupler. But if we hop over to the tracking station, we should be able to fully recover the section with the engines. So yeah, we can see we have a probe here. These are debris, so these are not going to get us anything. And we can actually get rid of this debris. So we can do that. These debris are not going to get us anything. These are just like little parts that are damaged, right? But this is going to be a decent one. So we'll recover that. That is going to get us 24,000 funds. So we got the majority of it there. But the problem there was that when we came in okay. It was just ever so slightly too fast, and we broke our landing legs. It's very, very finicky to get it to land at the right speed. So the landing legs broke. That caused us to tip over. But sure, that went pretty well, all things considered. We're getting the hang of it. I think that's pretty clear. It'll just require a little bit more practice to be able to consistently nail that. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how that went, all things considered. That was incredibly close to being a fully unqualified success. As it is, of course, it was a qualified success. We got the majority of the fuel back, or not fuel, the majority of the cost back, but we didn't get all of it. We ended up losing about, 9,000 from that? That's not too bad, all things considered. So we're going to warp on forward on our primary mission here. This is the circularization that was set up by MechJeb. How are we doing on our ascending node? We may want to toss in some additional directionality out this direction, and that's indeed exactly what I'm going to do. Bring this down to like 0.3. Yeah, that's about the best we can get, probably. Somewhere around here. Okay, looks good. So this is going to be 15 seconds of burn time. Let's warp on forward. I'm going to manually do this. We don't need MechJeb to do it after all. And let's burn. So this is getting us into orbit. This is not taking us to the ISS. This just puts us into a circularized orbit that is reasonably close to the ISS orbit. It's not perfect by any means, but it doesn't need to be. Okay, 1.2 meters per second. Sure, this is good enough. Cool. So with us in this orbit, we can see 0.3. Yeah, that looks fine. Let's applaud ourselves a trip out to the ISS. Oh, that's actually really close. Okay, cool. We don't need that. So we're just going to have to change our timing here. And that seems absolutely fine. So we'll just move this on around to, hang on, overshot it. This isn't moving all that much, is it? It's kind of moving the opposite direction, but we want to move it earlier. Yes, about here. So that is 6.6 kilometers apart. We can dial that in a little bit, 5.7. It's close enough. We can definitely get there from there. So let's align to that node. That's going to be in 12 minutes, so not too bad on that front. And that's going to bring us into the ISS. I think we're going to arrive at the ISS this episode, but we are not going to perform the docking maneuver. That way, at least I have a chance to, in between episodes, restart the game, and hopefully we'll have a reasonable frame rate for attaching the Bartolomeo. That would be the ideal. So at this point, we are about 50 seconds away from our burn here to the ISS. It's a very minor burn. 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay, only a few meters per second. 0.6? Yeah, that's close enough. So how are we doing? Yeah, we are 5.7 kilometers away. So that seems good. I do want to head over to, like, our ascending node here. Wait, which direction? Yeah, we should be going this way. Yeah, okay. Let's hop over into surface mode. And we'll need to do a bit of a corrective burn as we approach this ascending node. We can see the station is right there, and we're getting quite a bit closer. In fact, we're getting quite a lot closer indeed. We're going to need to head over towards station and do a corrective burn out this way. Okay. Something about like that. Maybe a little further? Yeah, a little further down over here. Can we just kill rot, please? Thanks. Okay, that's good enough for now. That puts us at 0.4. Yep. We'll go to surface, or rather, we'll go to relative velocity minus. There we go, and let's bring this guy on in. Relative velocity minus, not plus. There we go. We could grab our gravity scan, I suppose, and transmit this back for 16.8 science. No usable in-range comms devices. Okay, never mind. We'll have to wait till we get to the station for that, but that's acceptable. So let's just approach the station here. We're going to be loading in very, very shortly here, also known as goodbye frame rate, right about now. So goodbye frame rate, no doubt about that. I want to do a small corrective burn here. Woof. That's one heck of a frame rate. Okay, we definitely need to restart the game, no doubt about that. I'm going to do a small corrective burn down this way. I'm putting us in kill rot for right now. And I'm just going to be getting rid of some of our extraneous momentum here. Just keeping an eye on that. We're going to move to relative velocity minus in a moment here, keeping an eye on distances as well. Yeah, this looks quite fine. I mean, it's a slideshow, but it looks fine. We definitely need to restart the game, so not docking this episode is the right call. No doubt about that. Let's just get into position here for our retrograde burn, and once we are in position, then we're going to start this burn. We're only moving at 44 meters per second relative, so let's just warp in a little closer. Cool. Okay, I'm going to bring ourselves down to about that 5 meter per second mark, but I'm not in a huge hurry about it, all things considered. We're moving pretty slowly right now. It's all fine. So we'll just bring this on down. And as far as jettisoning this stage goes, we might not end up doing that right now. So just throttling this down a bit, putting it at about that 5 meter per second mark. We're coming in basically right at the station. But that is something that we can change in the next episode. You can leave your offerings. I'm going to actually slow this down a little further. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings. And a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Kentogan, Ali Lee, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.